Hi, I'm Chris Roberts, and in this series titled Supremacy and Suffering, we will be taking a walk through the book of Job. Often cited as the oldest book of the Bible, we take a look at God's divine word in an attempt to comprehend a good and sovereign God in a world filled with pain and sorrow. Here we will look into a question that mankind has asked since he has been on the earth. Why do people suffer?
Hello all, glad to have you back. Now, last time we ended off with Job chapter 5, where we had the second part of Eliphaz's first speech. You could kind of break up chapter 4 and chapter 5. Pretty much, chapter 4, just to give a brief overview, Eliphaz speaks in response to Job lamenting the day of his birth. And of course, Eliphaz's conclusion to the fact that Job is suffering was that Job had sinned. And then Job chapter 5, Eliphaz ends off his argument with the things you're suffering is because you're being chastised by God. If I were you, I'd appeal to the Almighty, and He'll be merciful. He'll heal you. He'll forgive you, and He'll bind you up. And this is true in a lot of cases, and this is true in a lot of our lives. But as we know from chapter 1, this is not the case for our brother Job, because Job was not being disciplined and he was not being chastised for a sin. So Eliphaz's conclusion, informed mostly off of his theology, based off his own experience throughout life. He's older, he's wiser. Based off of these things, these are the conclusions that Eliphaz has come to. And now Eliphaz is wrong, but here we have Job chapter 6, starting at the first verse, where Job will reply, "No, my complaint is just." So starting at verse 1, "But Job answered, Oh, that my grief were fully weighed, and my calamity laid with it on the scales, for now it would be heavier than the sand of the sea. Therefore my words are stuck in my throat, for the arrows of the Almighty are within me. My spirit drinks in their poison. The terrors of God are arrayed against me. Does the wild donkey bray when he has grass, or the ox bellow over his fodder? Is tasteless food eaten without salt, or is there any taste in the white of an egg? My soul refuses to touch them. They are like loathsome food to me. Oh, that I might have my request, and that God would grant me the thing that I long for, that it would please God to crush me, that He would let loose His hand and cut me off. Then I would still have comfort. I would revel in pain. It will not subside, for I have not concealed the words of the Holy One. What strength do I have that I should hope? And what is my end that I should prolong my life? Is my strength the strength of stones, or is my flesh made of brass? Is there no help within me, and is success banished from me? A despairing man should be shown kindness from his friend, or he forsakes the fear of the Almighty. My brothers have acted deceitfully, like a riverbed, like the streams of the riverbeds that run dry, which are dark because of the ice, and into which the snow disappears. In time they are scorched, they vanish. When it is hot, they disappear from their place. The caravans of their way turn aside, they go nowhere, and they perish. The caravans of Tema looked, the travelers of Sheba hoped for them. They were disappointed because they were confident. They arrived there and were dismayed, for now you are nothing. You see terror and are afraid. Did I say, give to me, or out of your wealth bribe me, or deliver me from the power of the enemy, or from the power of the oppressors liberate me? Teach me, and I will hold my tongue, and make me understand how I have erred. How forceful are right words, but what does your arguing prove? Do you mean to correct my words, and treat my desperate words as wind? Yes, you cast lots for the fatherless, and you bargain over your friend. And now, please, give me your attention, for surely I will not lie to you. Turn, I pray, let there be no anger from you. Do not be angry with me, and give me your attention, for surely I will not lie to you. Turn, I pray, let there be no injustice. Yes, turn again. My righteousness still stands. Is there injustice on my tongue? Cannot my taste discern pernicious things? All right, so let's go through this here. So Job is going to spite back at Eliphaz. Here you are making this accusation against me, your friend, your brother. Well, your accusation is irrelevant because I'm just in my complaint. Look at what has befallen me. So here, in verse 2, Job is waxing poetic about the suffering that he's enduring. Oh, that my grief were fully weighed, that my calamity were laid with it on the scales. And then he says that it would be found to be heavier than the very sand of the sea. For the arrows of the Almighty are within me. My spirit drinks in their poison, and the terrors of God are arrayed against me. So here Job understands, Job does not actually understand, of course, that he is being afflicted by Satan. However, Job is he is correct to a degree because Satan had to get the permission from God in order to do this. But here Job is seeing, I've been made an enemy of God. Why has God made me his enemy? Why is he shooting his arrows at me from heaven? I'm drinking in his poison. These are the deadly effects of ancient warfare, where the steel or the iron-tipped arrows would often be dipped in poison. So not only when you would be stabbed with an arrow, or when you would be shot through, if that were to hit a vital organ, or if it were to pierce you through, of course you would die. But even just a small scratch or a non-mortal wound could end up getting poison into your bloodstream. And here Job sees God has rendered him as an enemy all out. He's shooting poison arrows at him. Does the wild donkey bray when he has grass, or the ox bellow for his fodder? I mean, even animals enjoy food, but I can't eat food. Is tasteless food eaten without salt, or is there any taste in the white of an egg? But my soul refuses to touch them. Job is speaking on how even due to the suffering and the sorrow that he's enduring and this pain, that he can't even enjoy food. He can't even eat. And that his prayer is that if only God would grant my request, that he would crush me, that he would just take my life. And we've already spoken on that when Job lamented the day of his birth, that Job is crying out in a desperate plea for God to take his life, so that in Job's inaccurate estimations, he can go to Sheol, into the darkness, and he will remember and feel no more. Then I would have comfort, and I won't have to revel in this pain that I'm suffering. It will subside because I've not concealed the words of the Holy One. And then here Job is speaking with Eliphaz, speaking on that, what is the purpose of my life being prolonged if I'm going to prolong in the point of this torment, this torture? I mean, I'm only human. Verse 12, right? Is my strength like the strength of stones? Is my flesh made of brass? I'm only human. I'm only human. Of course I would complain, Eliphaz. And then verse 14, a despairing man should be shown kindness from his friends, or he forsakes the fear of the Almighty. And so here Job, in his righteousness and his wisdom, bites back at Eliphaz. You know, a despairing man should be able to find love and support from his friends. And if not so, they are the ones who are forsaking the fear of the Almighty. But my brothers have acted deceitfully like a riverbed. It's a wadi here, to be particular. I'm reading the modern English version. I believe the NASB will have it as a wadi. And pretty much what a wadi is, it's a seasonal pool or a seasonal river. So during the wet seasons over in those type of arid climates in the world, it would be flooded with water. It would be an oasis where you could drink and where you could use to irrigate and farm, and your animals would do well. But in the dry seasons, it would be completely dry. So it's not just a normal riverbed, it's a wadi. And here he's saying, my brothers have acted deceitfully. Oh, you were my friends in the wet season. There I could go to you and I could find cold water. I could find drink. But here I am in the dry season, and where's the river to be found? It's nothing more than a dead, burnt wasteland. Now, In time they are scorched, and they vanish. When it is hot, they disappear from their place. The caravans of their way turn aside. Here Job is speaking to caravans, which of course would be these large traveling clans of of traders. And kind of what I spoke about in chapter 1, when we were speaking about all of the things that Job had lost, that the Sabaeans attacking his camels and taking everything would have affected his wealth outside of the local area where he lived, because of course the caravans, the camel trains, if you will, were the ancient world where most of your produce would have come from, or where most of your trade would have come from through foreign nations. But here he's poetically speaking on how, imagine this caravan of traders traveling through the long, hard stretch of the Sahara Desert, coming up to a very well-known, welcomed riverbed to get life regenerating water, to have the water that's needed to give rest and refreshment to their animals, only to find the horror to see that it's nothing but a scorched, dry bed, and they're out there in the desert, and there's no water to be found. The caravans of Timah looked, the travelers of Sheba hoped for them, and in this same manner, here's Job out in the Sahara, going to the oasis that he expects to find, where he'll find comfort and support from his friends, and instead Eliphaz opens his mouth, and he's seeing not friendship, he's not seeing a river of life-giving water, rather he's seeing a scorched, dry bed. Now, I also would like to know that the Timah here is not Timan. It's not Timan of the Edomite kingdom of Edom, or modern day Jordan. Here it's Timah. And I only say that to say that perhaps Job, using this example, the caravans of Timah, the travelers of Sheba, may very well speak to Eliphaz very, very, very personally, because Eliphaz, being a Temanite, most very well may mean that he is a descendant of Timah, or that he's from the land of Timah and not Timan. And it being here, Job is kind of doing a parallel. Now, remember, in English, when we do poetry, we like to do rhyming in syllables or rhyming in sound. But in Hebrew, they rhyme in thought. And so they're parallels, either through synonyms or through antonyms. And you'll see this in the Proverbs. You'll see this in the Psalms a lot. An example would be, a wise man knows when to hold his tongue. A wise man knows when he ought not speak. They're saying the exact same thing, but in a poetic and a dual parallel. Whereas in English, we like to hear the sound of the syllables rhyme. So we would say the exact same thing, but we might say it such as, a wise man knows when he should hold his tongue. If you don't have anything smart to say, don't let your mouth run. We like to hear those syllables rhyme, but in Hebrew it's parallelism through synonyms or antonyms that we like to see in scripture here. And so that the caravans of Timah and the travelers of Sheba may very well be the same thing. And then Sheba, of course, many people would equate to Yemen. So if that is the case, then Eliphaz would turn out not actually being from the kingdom of Edom, but a little farther over in Yemen, or modern day Yemen, and that Timah could be in the land of Sheba. So that's something to take into account here. And to me, that kind of makes more sense too. But of course, here, verse 20, they were disappointed because they were confident. They arrived and they were dismayed. And of course, Job here in verses 22 forward, did I say give to me? Job is sitting here saying, you're coming here attacking my character and attacking my integrity, but what bounds do you have that I don't have the right to complain in the torment and the torture that I'm enduring? I didn't say give me this. I didn't ask you out of your wealth to do anything for me. I didn't ask you to bribe me. I didn't ask you to deliver me from the power of my enemies. I didn't even ask you to liberate over my oppressors. And if I did, then teach me. Teach me, and I'll hold my tongue, and make me understand how I've erred. Then he says, how forceful are right words, but what does your arguing prove? Do you mean to correct me and treat my desperate words as wind? Are you going to just dismiss me, Eliphaz? Are you going to dismiss what I have to say? Or, and that's verse 26, We'll see this in Job 8, chapter 8, verse 2 later on, but it could be actually flipped. The Hebrew, it could be saying, do not despise me for my desperate words of the wind. And so Job could here be saying, actually, don't hold against me these things that I'm speaking in the most desperate points of my life. I'm only human. I'm only human. Or Job could be saying, as the MEV renders it, if you're going to correct me, how could you possibly correct me when you treat these desperate words of mine as the wind, as something that just blows here and then blows there and then it's gone? Yes, you cast lots for the fatherless and you bargain over your friend. Job is in pain. He's in pain emotionally, and he snaps out on his friend. He's rendering Eliphaz not as a righteous and good man here, but he's really this is a harsh accusation here. You cast lots. You're up here betting on an orphan, and you're bargaining over your own friend. But then, of course, he says, is there injustice on my tongue? Cannot my taste discern pernicious things? So here Job is saying, I understand that there's evil in the world. I understand that there's suffering and that there's sorrow and that the Almighty brings judgment on these individuals who do such things. But do you really think that I'm a type of person who cannot discern between good things and evil things? Really, Eliphaz, do I come off as the type of person that would not repent if I were in sin so I couldn't get out of this? Now, when we get to, God willing, tomorrow, if the Lord permits, we'll go through chapter 7, and Job will lament even further on how his suffering is endless, the pain and the sorrow that he is enduring, and that will lead to chapter 8, where Bildad the Shuhite will respond to Job's speech. So, God willing, you all be safe, be well. Talk to you next time. Maranatha.